Well, hello everyone. Here we are on the second day of our Points to the Passion Week as we are thinking about what Jesus did on that second day of the Passion, how he was there and how he was being photobombed by Neil Langford. I see him in the background. Everybody wave to Neil and say, hey Neil, glad to see you. No telling who's going to come in and join us on these videos. But as we look at this, it says there in Mark's Gospel, chapter 11, verse number 12, it says, now on the next day, when he had come from Bethany, he was hungry, and seeing a fig tree having leaves, he went to see if perhaps he would find something on it. When he didn't find it, for it had but leaves, it wasn't the season for figs. In response, Jesus said, let no one eat fruit from you ever again, and the disciples heard it. So they came to Jerusalem, and Jesus went into the temple and began to drive out those who bought and sold in the temple, and overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. And he would not allow anyone to carry wares through the temple. And he taught them, saying, is it not written, my house shall be called a house of prayer of the nations? But you've made it a den of thieves. And the scribes and the chief priests heard it, and sought how they might destroy him, for they feared him, because all the people were astonished at his teaching. And when evening had come, he went out of the city. As we look at the passage for today, we see that Jesus, after he entered Jerusalem on that triumphal entry on that Palm Sunday, went into the temple, looked around in verse number 11 of chapter 11 there in Mark's Gospel, and then, being it was late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. Now, Bethany was where Mary and Martha and Lazarus lived. And so they went, Jesus and the disciples went there, spent the night, and then traveled back the next day. Now, it's about a 30-minute walk from Jerusalem down through the Kidron Valley, up through the Mount of Olives to Bethany. And so as they were traveling, then they, after the night, then they traveled back into Jerusalem. They traveled back past the Mount of Olives, down past the Garden of Gethsemane, through the Kidron Valley, and then up to probably that eastern gate of the Temple Mount. Now, as Jesus is walking along, he's hungry in the morning, and so he sees a fig tree. It's not quite the time of figs, but the leaves are on the tree, so probably there should be some early figs. And so he goes by to look and see, and sure enough, there's none there. And so he curses the fig tree because it's barren. It's going to be important as we make it onto the Temple Mount. As he goes to the Temple Mount, then he sees, as he walks into the area that surrounds the temple, not into the temple itself, but into the courtyard around the temple, there is just a lot of merchandise going on, a lot of coming and going. People would cut through that eastern gate, through the temple, into Jerusalem. So there were people coming and going. There were merchants set up around with sacrificial animals that had been approved by the priest. There were money changers. So all sorts of crazy things were going on there as Jesus comes in, other than religious things. So much corruption connected to the Temple Mount in terms of somebody coming in and having a lamb, and then the priest saying, well, your lamb's not good enough, take one of ours, and charging them a huge price. Well, Jesus sees this, and whenever he sees it, he becomes very zealous. He becomes very passionate, and at one point it says that he makes a whip and comes and begins to drive out the money changers, to turn over the tables with the money, to drive out those who are selling doves and lambs, and then not letting anyone just kind of pass through the temple area just like it was a city street. And he says to them, is it not written, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations, but you have made it a den of thieves. Remember, we said that the fig tree was barren. As Jesus comes into the temple, he's saying to the religious leaders, Judaism is barren. You've got leaves like you're alive, but you're dead on the inside. You're not bearing any fruit for the Father. And then he drives them out. And we see here, after he drives them out, the scribes and the chief priests heard it. They saw what he did, and they sought to destroy him. They sought to put him to death. He was very popular with the people, so they couldn't just out and out put him to death. But whenever they got together, they were plotting his demise. And then the passage ends there in verse 19. When the evening had come, he went out of the city. And I'm supposing he probably went back to Bethany. Remember, about a 30-minute drive. So not too far in that day. So as we see Jesus on this Monday, it really does help us to focus on his passion. Not just his passion in his death, but his passion in his life. Passion for God. Passion for the things of God. Passion to do the right thing, to follow after the Father, and to be obedient, to bear much fruit. And that's exactly what we see in this first day. Thanks for joining us today on our Points to the Passion, as we have looked at Jesus' trip to Jerusalem, as we see the Monday of Passion Week and all that happened in the life of Jesus. Tomorrow, be sure and tune in. Brother Matt will be sharing with us on Tuesday, and then we'll have one of these videos each week throughout the week. I hope you have a great day. Hope you've enjoyed this video as we've really lived a portion of Jesus' life in the week of the Passion. God bless you. Have a great day.